Good evening, everyone. Good evening. John Lawrence, National Housing Party Talk stream tonight. Got the mighty Paul Rimmer, and we've got Callum. He's in the background. There's no picture, but Callum's on as well. I'd just like to say hello to everyone, and I hope everyone's all right. And if people didn't know, it was Arlene's funeral today, so I'll throw a link out on social media, and you can watch the stream. But please don't forget, like and subscribe to our channels. Please follow Pat's Rumble channel. I'll put the link up in the chat in a minute. And if you'd like to donate or join our party, I'll put the link up as well. Over to you, Paul.
First of all, condolences to all of Arlene's family. Arlene was a great member of our party. She's a lovely girl, lovely Scottish lass. And may she rest in peace and rise in glory. She was a believer. She's gone to be with the Lord. So the angels be with her. God bless you, Arlene. I love you. Anyway, another Judgment Day. We're going to talk about Judgment Day today. It's a big title. It's about a day of reckoning, which is just ahead. And it's going to affect every single one of us. And it's unfolding now. Right, I'm going to start with a little statistic. In 1997, Tony Blair won a landslide. 18 years of Tory rule was over. Maggie was 13, 11. No, Maggie was 11. John Major was 7. Tony Blair took the helm. And what did he do? He opened the immigration floodgates. Peter Mandelson put adverts in Pakistan. Come and live in lovely Britain. You will have all the welfare benefits you need. Housing, healthcare, education. Get on that plane and come to Britannia. And so they poured into Britain. When John Major was beaten in 1997, there were 50,000 immigrants every year entering the UK. That's 1,000 a week. Within 12 months, Tony Blair had times that by 10 to 500,000 a year. Now, we hoped when the Tories got in, they promised to slow mass immigration down to the tens of thousands. Never happened. And now it's at record heights. Last year, it was over 1 million. In fact, the truth is, since 1997, just 26 years ago, 14 million immigrants have entered this country from Africa, Southern Asia, the Middle East. 14 million. That's more than the population of London, twice the population of old London. It's more than the population of London, Birmingham, Manchester combined. It's an incredible number of people on this small island, 14 million. But there's a factor that people ignore about this, is that 80% of all immigrants stay on benefits for life. They haven't just come to colonize our space and our cities. They've come to colonize our welfare state, and they're milking it dry. The education system, they've colonized that. Go and look at any of your local schools and you'll see they're like a pot puree of the whole world is there. Go to your hospitals. You've got a queue now for hours, not 4 hours, not 8 hours, sometimes 10 or 12 hours to get treatment. And in front of you will be the people of the world, of the Islamic world, of sub-Saharan Africa, of the Middle East. They'll all be waiting there to get their free healthcare provided by Asian doctors we brought in to service them. I call it the International Health Service now, run by foreigners, for foreigners, financed by the British. Okay, and then you got the actual welfare benefits themselves. They live on welfare benefit. They breed on welfare benefits. They have big families on welfare benefits. They live in expensive social housing on welfare benefits. How much does all this cost? It's been estimated that each immigrant cost £50,000 per annum, each one. Times that by 1 million, that's 50,000 million. Times that by 10 million, that's 500 billion. That is half of our public spending in this country. Half of everything the state spends goes on the immigrant population. It's a quarter of our gross national product. It's a huge figure, and it's draining the wealth out of the country. When we had a successful economy, the golden economy that Maggie left behind, when things were going well, we could just about afford it. But things have changed now. We've actually gone into low growth or even no growth, and we're actually entering recession. And on top of that, we have an aging population, so we have more dependent people ourselves. We're aging, people are leaving the workforce, they need care, they need treatment. That is an enormous burden on the state as well. So pensioners are costing the state almost 200 billion. The immigrants, around 500 billion. And then you've got the interest payments. Because we have inflation and interest rates have had to go up, they've gone up from like 50 billion a year to 100 billion a year. They're going to be 200 billion this year. All this is just draining the money out of this country, draining the wealth away. And the way we're coping at the moment has been borrowing, but that option is now over because I don't know if you've noticed this, but the bond market, the long bonds, they're called, it collapsed last week. People don't want the long bonds anymore. They don't pay enough interest. People want 5% interest on their money. So the government are issuing new bonds with 5% interest, and this is costing a fortune just in interest payments. So everyone who goes out there and goes to work each day and pays his taxes, that tax is not going for you. It's going for somebody else. And it's not enough anymore. The government has been spending like a drunken sailor. They call it profligacy, excessive spending. They won't face any of the issues. They won't stop mass immigration. They won't make these people work. They won't address the issue of debt. They're just kicking the can down the road. That's all they've done. That's all Blair did. That's all. When Blair finished, Cameron come in, he kicked the can down the road. Sunak's doing it now. Boris Johnson did it. No one's addressed the central issue, that our economy is no longer feasible. And it's not in the long term. You could kick it out into the long grass statement. In 10 years, everything's going to fall to pieces. It's not even in the medium term. 5 years, everything's going to fall to pieces. No. In next year or even before Christmas, it's going to fall to pieces because the financial markets now know that we're in a trap. When the government effectively becomes bankrupt, cannot meet its obligations, it's not going to be able to borrow anymore to escape, like it did with the credit crunch, like it did in 1987. The option of borrowing isn't there because of inflation. So what are the other options the government have? They can put up taxes. But you can't put up taxes when there's no growth, because taxes strangle growth. That means the money, the cake actually reduces in size. The more you tax it, the smaller the cake gets, the less revenue you get. It won't work. So what are the government actually going to do when faced with this crisis? They're going to have to act, and they're going to have to be decisive, and they're going to absolutely hammer public spending. I'm talking about benefit cuts. I'm talking about cuts to education. I'm talking about wage cuts in the public sector. Imagine the tumult that will cause. Imagine the tensions and the strife and the strikes that will cause. But they're going to have to do it because they won't have the money. We've been living as if we're in a dream world. Just spend, 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 and no one's responsible for paying the bills. But the bills are now coming home to roost. And this is why we're faced with Judgment Day, because it's not only happening in Britain, it's happening in France, it's happening in Italy, it's happening even in Germany. Germany used to be like the beacon of rectitude, of doing things the right way, of fiscal responsibility. Even Germany now has gone pear-shaped. This is what political correctness has done. The elites that run our world now, the political elites in the West, they're incompetent, they got no vision, and all they do is take orders from the WEF and, of course, ultimately, the American government. Now, when Biden stole the election in 2020, The American administration that was put in place is the most incompetent and reckless that has ever existed. It's absolutely pathetic. And so the American budget deficit has bloomed on a scale we couldn't imagine. It's gone up 5 trillion. Everything is pointing to a financial catastrophe ahead, an apocalypse. We're about to go off the abyss, like we did in '87, like we did with the credit crunch. But this is going to be no easy way out because we've shut all the exits and we're going to have to face reality this time. And the reality is, guys, we've been living, not only just us, but we've invited the whole world to come to our country and live beyond our means. It's gone up, inflation's gone up, you know, the budget deficit's gone up, goes up like a balloon. It's got bigger and bigger. The number of people dependent on the welfare state has just got bigger and bigger. The International Health Service has just got bigger and bigger. Bing! The balloon is about to burst. And it's going to be catastrophic when it happens. You'll see the stock market plummet. You'll see the bond markets plummet. You'll see interest rates continue to go up and up. Even at 5% is strangling the economy. You'll see unemployment rise, but then you'll see the cuts in public expenditure. They've got to make them. There's no way out, easy way out of the trap that we're in now. They're not telling you this. They're hinting at it. I mean, the idea that Keir Starmer could be a prime minister and resolve any of these issues has got to be the biggest laugh in the world, because Keir Starmer is a dud and the whole Labour Party is brain dead. It's got no policies or no solutions to any of these problems. What we have to do, and this is what's really going to hit when hits the rubber, we're going to have to prioritize who gets resources in this country. Is it the pensioners, or is it the immigrant population? Is it the indigenous people, or is it the foreigners who've got 2 passports, who, like Rishi Sunak himself, don't really belong to Britain? They have foreign blood in their veins. They've got no British blood in their veins. I mean, they're here for what they can get. But when the battle begins over resources, they are organized. They have the law behind them. They have the political force, like the Labour Party, behind them. And the government will actually, they'll bow to the greatest pressure. If the immigrant communities pressure the government to make the resources available to them, they'll choke off the indigenous population. It'll be painful. We've got to decide what do we do in this scenario. Do we simply capitulate and just die, wilt on the wind? Or do we fight back and demand that the resources that we created, that we put the money into the system, this is our country, and we're going to have to assert that, you see. We're going to have to assert that these resources belong to us. They don't belong to the whole world. I always say the government is like the father of a family. They're responsible for their own family. They're not responsible for every family on earth. That's madness. And the madness that we've gone through, certainly since Tony Blair came to power in 1997, has now bore fruit. We live in a lunatic asylum. We know that these bogus people coming into the country on boats or trains or planes, being put up in expensive hotels, being given priority for social housing, being given priority for benefits. This is wrong. This is absurd. This is like the government is being generous with everything, but it's not their money. In fact, it's borrowed money. It's a big Ponzi scheme. They're giving out money, but as soon as the money comes in, it's given out. You've paid in to your pensions or, taxation, income tax, national insurance, any tax you pay. You think this is going to provide for your children to have an education, for your healthcare when you're older, for your pension. The pot's empty. Gordon Brown cashed in our gold reserves for a pittance. Now they're cashing in the rest of our money, our future. We're up the creek without a paddle, really. We're really in a difficult situation, and there's going to be hard choices ahead. Now, we had an election in Germany on Sunday in 2 states, Hesse and buying. And in both states, the ruling party's vote collapsed. What they call the Ampel in Germany, the Greens, the Socialists, and the Liberals, the FDP. Their vote collapsed, and the vote for the Alternative for Deutschland, a patriotic party, surged. They became the second party of Hesse. Now that's an incredible development, because Hesse is a very sophisticated, very prosperous part of Germany, Frankfurt am Main. It's right at the heart of Germany. But people were asked, why did you support the AfD? You know, why did you abandon the government and come to these patriots? And people said, because the economy is in meltdown. We've got no confidence in our future. We're scared. We need someone to stand up and fight for us. We need someone to secure our future instead of just leaving the border open so the whole world can come here and take what is ours. And this is just logical. This is just rational. This is just basic common sense. This is a basic survival instinct. I mean, we give a huge amount in foreign aid, but then you see the ruling elites, they're incompetent and they're unsuccessful, and they're leading us into the rocks. We're in the rocks now. We're about to, the good ship SS Britannia, or, you know, the Francais or German, it's all about to get smashed up. We're really at the edge of the cliff now. We're on the abyss. And these people have no answers. But there's one answer that we've been taught in history, is when these people are under pressure, they go for extreme solutions, one of which is warfare. They become warmongers. What is the war in the Ukraine really about? What was it about? I mean, what happened was, when Biden came into office, he told Zelensky to apply to join NATO. Russia cannot allow the Ukraine to join NATO, because if that happens, Russia is basically vulnerable to an attack from NATO. NATO will infiltrate Russia. They'll cause ethnic strife throughout Russia. Russia's a multi-ethnic state. NATO would lead to the breakup of Russia itself. The Russians know this, so they had to respond. They had to stop it. So they invaded. Now, Biden's goal, and Boris Johnson said this straight away, was to topple Putin. It wasn't to defend Ukraine or to protect Zelensky. They had a bigger goal than that. They wanted to bring down the Russian regime. And why is that? Because Russia sits on $100 trillion worth of mineral assets, of oil, of gold, of diamond, of coal, of iron. Russia is an incredibly rich source of minerals, of raw materials. And of course, it's also vast production of wheat for bread, from foodstuffs around the world. Russia would be a phenomenal asset to the globalists. So they wanted to topple Putin and then just basically pillage Russia. But they failed to do it. They failed to overcome the Russian army. In fact, they're losing in the Ukraine. And so who did they turn to? They turned to Israel. And they asked the Israelis to arm Zelensky. And Israel sent 80% of its artillery shells to Russia. Israel has now become the major supplier to the Ukrainian army. And what's that led to? That's led to the Israel itself becoming vulnerable. And now we have a war in the Middle East on top of the war in the Ukraine. And now they're talking about bombing Iran, bringing Iran into this war. Blinken has become much more aggressive towards China, saying that China's made itself the ally of Russia and must be brought low. They're warmongering and they're stirring us up. They're trying to say that we're under threat, that the Russian regime, the Chinese regime, the Iranian regimes, this is the axis of evil, and we've got to go to war against them, because war generates wealth for these people. It generates power. It generates their ability to control us like a pandemic does. It's all games. It's all a psyop. But the underlying factor is this: they've lost control of the world economy. We're in a tailspin. We're going to fall off the edge. And I think around February, we're going to hit Judgment Day, when the markets crash, when the extreme measures have to kick in. Now, you might say, wow, this is all big. This is all really dramatic stuff. What's it really got to do with me? It's going to hit you. At every angle, it's going to hit you. Everything you took for granted is going to be pulled from underneath you. We have to make a political impact. We have to reclaim our state. Not that we can solve all these problems, but that we can fight on behalf of our people. Because our people, we've been rendered impotent in this situation. As I say, you know, the Muslims have their organizations, the blacks have their organizations, the Arabs have their organizations to advocate for them, to fight their corner. Who's fighting our corner? The Conservative Party? No. The Conservative Party's been totally taken over by the globalists. We need to have a voice for the British people. This is what the National Housing Party of the UK is all about. From a small acorn, we can grow into a mighty oak. Ultimately, we hope that the patriotic forces of this country can come together and we can become a true advocate for the British people. We need to do this, you see, because it's not only an economic issue, it's not only a social issue and an issue of immigration, it's not only a political issue, it's a spiritual issue. This is about the destruction of the British people, the destruction of our Christian civilization. This is happening across Western Europe. This is why it ties in with the whole politically correct agenda, wokeism, transgenderism, sexual perversion, abortion. It all ties in. They're trying to destroy us so that they can dominate us, but destroying everything. It's like a burned, you know, race, burn everything to the ground. We've got to have somebody who's going to educate the British people about what's happening, get the British people organized into battalions to fight back, and then raise the flag, the National Housing Party of the UK. John, that's the opening.
Well, I mean, I'm just against violence and war, mate. And if we look at things right now, all these MPs and councillors in the street supporting Palestine, all these people could be possibly running the country. Zara Sultana's out on stage supporting Palestine. These people are running our country, yet they're not even saying anything about the death of women or anything, and they're all for violence. I don't want these people in power. If these people get in power, we'll get involved in more conflicts around the world, and that's the cycle will just continue. And I'm just not having it, mate. So I just really don't. Our big election next year, our general election, certainly I think this is probably the biggest general election that I personally will take part in. It's a future of our country, really. It's a future of our country. Obviously, if Labour get in, then we can just see more war, more Jews slaughtered and all that lot. Although I'm not taking any sides in the conflict. I just don't believe in conflict. If you look at me social media posts going back 5-10 years, you will see that I am against war. I am against conflict. I don't want anything like that. So our general election very important this year, next year. I don't know about the Conservatives. I think if I think straight, yeah, one of the main parties is going to win, but they're going to lose votes to independents and hyperlocal political parties. That's what they're going to do, and they're going to continue to lose those votes. Scary days in Europe now. I've seen some comments in the chat about Maloney. One comment asked about, Paul, where did you get your figures from for the Muslim unemployment rates? But, I mean, there's plenty of articles online that you can see employment rates and how they don't work and things like that. I can give you a bit of a statistic in Oldham. We have a £500 million a year family tax credit bill. Now, yes, I get that. That means people are still working, but they're not working full time. And we have 4 of the top 10 poorest wards in the UK are in Oldham. They're only usurped by Tower Hamlets, Hackney, and a place in Birmingham. But other than that, them wards are the poorest, and they're all the immigrant wards. They're all mainly Muslim wards. So that tells you that they don't work, and the percentage of workers is lower in them areas than anywhere else in Oldham. So that's just a statistic from my town. You get similar statistics in Bradford, and you'll get similar statistics in Birmingham and London, and it's all the immigrant areas. And Paul is right. A lot of these people don't work. I mean, there's other reasons. The childbirth reason. There's with 5 to 6 on average in an immigrant family in Oldham. Yeah, it's 2 or 3 in the predominantly white rest of the areas, and that's 2 or 3. So that means people aren't going to be working. The mums aren't going to be working and stuff like that. Another one I'll be doing a video on this, but we have like 30 or 40 chicken shops or takeaways in Oldham, and guarantee that in them shops, a lot of the people don't pay taxes or anything like that. And that's why our government want more immigrants in, thinking that that's the way to solve that problem, but it isn't the way to solve that problem. And that's why they always say we want more in, or we want more in, because they know that a lot of them here don't work and aren't paying taxes and stuff like that. They know that. They know that, the government. It is scary days. You know, Ukraine, there's been a bit less on Ukraine past few days, and just everything on Israel and Palestine. And it just sickens me. It really does. I'm no fan of it. I mean, should we be involved in Israel or Palestine? Even if you're an Israeli supporter, we should be thinking about the UK first before anywhere else in the world. Don't care what country's burning down. We should be focused on the UK, and we never are. Doesn't matter if you support Palestine or Israel. We should be focused on the UK first. Sort our own house out first before we go looking in other people's houses. That's how I've always said it. Callum, you come in.
Yeah, hello everyone. First, I would just like to share my condolences with our member Arlene, and for her passing. It is very sad. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on in the world right now, isn't there? It's like the world's gone crazy, hasn't it? And like you both have said, you know, like with Paul saying everything about the Ponzi scheme and the economy, and John, with you saying, you know, that we need to focus on Britain. My question is, right, is let's just say, hypothetically, that Great Britain was at war with itself, right? Let's say there's a civil war. Do you really think that Ukraine or Israel or all of these other countries that are at war now, that we, the British people, are helping to pay for? Do you really think that people like Zelensky are going to help us when we are at war with ourselves? Absolutely not. Okay? The banks in this country have gone absolute, you know, just zero. Okay? We are using so much money for the most ridiculous programs. For example, this year alone, earlier in this year, the net borrowing, which the UK government borrowed, was, I think, £25 billion. Okay. And that's roughly about almost 4% of the entire GDP. When you look at how banks work, okay, and how they take our money, it's called fractional reserve lending. And what it means, right, this is why it's a Ponzi scheme, is because let's say someone goes into the bank and asks for a loan for a car, okay? They, you know, sorry, I'll rephrase it. Let's say you go into the bank, you deposit £10,000. Someone else goes into the bank and asks for a car loan for £9,000, okay? The 90% circulation of that £9,000, okay, then goes to the person asking for the loan. And let's say the person who uses that money for the loan buys the car. The person who uses the money to sell the car goes into the bank, deposits the money. And this is how the cycle works, right? And it continues until the circulation and the banks have made money out of our own money. This is how banks make money, okay? Literally, look at the 2008 financial crisis. millions of people lost their jobs. Millions of people had to, sleep on the streets. They lost their houses. Yet alone 100 years ago, when there was the 1921 Wall Street crash, which literally caused World War II. Okay. Now, just like you were saying, Paul, earlier, right? When this day and age, modern day and age, economical bubble is going to burst, it's going to be way more worse than 100 years ago. It's going to be, more people are going to die. More people are going to lose their lives. And this is going to be in our own country. Okay. The media, the government, all of these people at the top, they don't have to worry about everything because they're the ones dealing with our money. It's the people at the bottom. It's the people on social credit systems. It's people on welfare checks. It's, for instance, single mothers, right? It's the British people that are going to suffer. Now, there are a lot of foreigners in this country that also come to collect and abuse the taxpayer system, okay? For example, a lot of them, when they come into this country, they will apply for benefits, and what they'll do is then they'll use that money to go back home while staying on benefits in the UK. But put this all aside, right? Put money all aside. What's really going on is the younger generation is going to become more perverse with all of this transgenderism, this sexual perverseness. The older generation are going to die more quickly because the government don't really care about their health. If you really think the NHS care about your health, you are deluded. So we are going to see an absolute crisis. I predict probably in the next 10 years or so. And we have to deal with our own citizens. The UK government's priorities should be Britain, okay? Not Ukraine, not Israel, not all these other countries. It should be Britain and our people. And that's really all I have to say. Yeah.
Let me just say, you just said 10 years there, Callum. It's not going to be 10 years. It's going to be in the next 6 months. I don't know if you follow the bond markets, but you see the long bonds, which were money government put out in the past and borrowed in the past, their value has collapsed because people don't want them because they pay low interest. So that shows that everyone wants payment now. They want money off the government now for borrowing. They want 4%, they want 5%. This means the scale of our debt is so huge now. We're at over £1 trillion in debt. It's almost the equivalent of our whole gross domestic product. This costs a fortune to finance. It's going to cost 200 billion in interest alone this year. So all the taxes we're paying is going to go towards not just paying for the immigrant population, which is the biggest cost, but also to pay the interest. So the money left over for us, for our healthcare, for our education, for our social needs, it's going to be dramatically reduced or not available at all. So the crisis is now, but the point is the financial markets know this. They know that the government can no longer control the situation. They know that the bubble's about to burst, and it's the day they lose their confidence. That's Judgment Day. That's the day of reckoning. Everything goes down the chute. We go into the abyss. It can happen tomorrow. It can happen in February, but it's on the cards now. Now, you talked about politics there. John talked about the election next year. Politics is changing dramatically now because the faith in the socialists or the liberals or these wet politicians to actually do the right thing has evaporated. In France, we saw the emergence of the National Rally, and they're getting stronger and stronger. People have lost confidence in Macron. In Germany, as I say, we just had 2 elections on Sunday. The confidence in the government has collapsed. The Alternative for Deutschland is roaring ahead. We're going to see in America the presidential election next year. Trump is coming in. When Trump was in control, America was strong. This is a spiritual thing, you see. It's about the strength of the leadership, the vision. Trump had a great economy, and he got the world at peace Trump brought peace to the world. The left said, oh, he's going to cause World War III. Oh, he's going to cause a world recession. The exact opposite happened because Trump applied common sense to politics. Biden and the globalist mafia who run America now, they don't apply common sense. All they're interested in is lining their pockets and accumulating power in their constituency. They're anti-American. You see, the thing is, the policies that the left have pursued, whether it be the Democrats or even the Conservatives in Britain or the Social Democrats in Germany or Macron in France, their politics have been about the destruction of our country. Now, we have such an inheritance from the past. We could take a lot of it, but we can't take it anymore. We're now very fragile, very weak, and we're about to sink. We've got to wake up to reality now in order to defend ourselves. As I say, this will create, Callum talked about civil war. This will create tension within a multicultural society now, tension between the different communities, and then conflict over resources. Every multicultural society which has ever existed, unless it's unified by one religion, has actually ended up in civil war. Now, I'm not predicting civil war immediately or even in the short term, but it's a distinct possibility in this country. And the people that are coming into this country, they have a very different worldview to us. They haven't enjoyed the peace and prosperity of the post-war years. They're coming from countries like Syria, like Nigeria, like Pakistan, like India, where they've known poverty and strife and warfare as a constant. This is their psyche. Now they're coming into this country. When the pressure begins to tell, they would turn to that. These are the dangers we face. Because we've been totally reckless with our nation, because we've left the borders open, because we've lost our moral values and our Christian faith, our spiritual resources, we've been like really sort of wasteful with our country. We've thrown it in the gutter and think there'll be no consequences, but the consequences are about to happen. They're happening now. I mean, there's a housing crisis, but it's going to be even worse when there's a real economic crisis, when the recession starts to bite. They can't bring interest rates down because of the inflationary fears. The inflationary fears are because the government is being profligate. It's being wasteful in its spending. It's overspending. And this is generating inflation, especially in America, but also in this country. The government has got to act in a responsible way again. And if they don't, we're all going to, well, I think it's too late now for that. But we really must reverse gear. As I said in the last stream, the SS Britannia is heading for the rocks, and we can see the rocks now. We're about to smash into them, and we've got to change course. We need a new direction, and it's got to be based on patriotism, Christian nationalism. It's got to be based on a realistic view of the world, that we protect our country, we have strong borders, we put our own people first, like the America First movement. We have to put our own people first, and we have to close the borders, and we have to restructure society that we're protecting, that we're secure again, because we're not secure anymore. We don't know what's going to happen even in the near future now. As I say, it's meltdown time, and my message to the British people and to the whole people of Europe is wake up, wake up, wake up to the dangers that are overwhelming us. Because if you don't wake up, you'll become in the gutter, like the nation. We've thrown our nation in the gutter. We'll end up there unless we now start to organize and resist. John?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. It is just scary days, guys. It is just scary days. I just want to, I'll just clip on to Linelli. So the guys at Linelli, they've been protesting for 100 days. There's been 40.
See you now.
All right, then, no problem. See you later, Paul. There's been 40 arrests. Nothing at all arrests, really. They just wanted people not to go there. Now, the Home Office have pulled out to make the hotel a migrant hotel, which is great. The locals already now are looking at buying the hotel and they're also looking at standing as councillors and possibly a member of parliament. And when I was down there, that's what I said to them. And you'll hear them repeating that. So that's good news. Maybe it's a start to show other people the way to go. But honestly, the way to go is political. As soon as you stand to be a member of parliament, and the members of parliament and the councillors have come, people have come up, attacked them, and all this. And I'm not joking, you guys. The average age of the person at that place is 65 plus. There isn't no 30-odd-year-old men. There isn't any 30-odd-year-old women. There isn't anybody 25. The average age is 65 plus. Now, it's not saying that they're not supported of the young people. They are supported of the young people, but the average age is 65 plus. They've been pushed to the ground, thrown around, assaulted, and people think it's all right. Honestly, if I'd have been there with any of them assaults, I'd have got it on film and I'd be making complaints to police and stuff like that. But none of the councillors and none of the MPs have said anything. So they're going to start running in the elections next. And I think they're looking at a member of parliament next year. As soon as they do that and announce that they're running, you watch all them members of parliament and councillors come over body licking them. That's what they'll do. They'll be body licking them, because their jobs are under threat now by the way they've ignored the normal, regular people. And we do have a voice where they've ignored us across the country, not just in Llanelli. They've ignored us everywhere. No one's been asked. Nobody was ever asked about any of these hotels, people coming into the area. Whether you're pro-refugee or not, you don't get a say. You don't get a say. You don't get a say where these people are going. The only places where they did announce something were the big army camps, but they never, they never said to people, look, we're going to be putting people here. What do you think? They never said that. They just said, right, we're going to be putting people here. The hotels just sprung up, being filled up with migrants in Oldham. They filled the Victoria Hotel up. People lost their jobs. All the parties, works dues and all that, all cancelled. They filled it up with migrants. Then the council said something 2 days after. 2 days after. That's in Oldham. That it's the same in every other town across the country. So the fact is, everybody in the chat, your voice counts for nothing. They don't want to ask you, and it's not up to you. So we've got to make it up to us. We've got to make it up to us. That's why we're standing in elections. That's why Oldham Council are quaking in the boots that there's that many people standing up to be in elections. And obviously the branding people with these politically correct words as well. But it doesn't matter. People are standing up, and Oldham Council is quaking in the boots. They've lost 3 council leaders in the past 3 years. The council leaders haven't lasted, been voted out or whatever. At one point, about 5-6 years ago, maybe a little bit more, Labour had 40 seats out of 60, around about 40. They're now down to 31. Right, so that shows you the change in the voting. Now, even though we do see Labour and Conservative at the top of the polls, but they are losing votes all the time. These main parties are losing votes. People are turning to other parties. People are turning to independents. People are turning to parties such as the National Housing Party, because they want change, and it's coming. So big shout out to Llanelli lot. I just so impressed and astounded, stalwart and steadfast. That's what I've said about the Llanelli lot, stalwart and steadfast. Hopefully I will get down there again. I'd love to, but we'll see what goes on at this point going forward. But over to you, Callum.
Yeah, it's the Llanelli hotel, isn't it? They won the
Straddy Park Hotel.
Yeah, it's really good work that they've done there, because see, that's just an example, right? That story alone is just the beginning, because we have more than I think it's like 500 hotels now in this country that are housing, and they're not migrants. Okay, we need to correct this. They are illegal migrants. Okay, they literally have broken in to our borders. That in itself, right, is already a crime. And they come in from France. So unless France is at war, then we shouldn't be taking these people in. So they could stay at France. But the problem, right, how it works in the UK, John, is hotels in this country will be given a loan from the government, depending on which MP and which constituency. They'll be asked, do you want to house these so-called refugees to help you financially? They'll be given money, because a lot of these hotel owners have already been deceived into thinking that these people are genuine refugees, right? Like children, women, etc. But when these people are then placed and situated in these hotels to live in, obviously none of them are women and children. They're all fighting age men. They don't know how to speak English. They don't care about Britain. And so when the hotel owners realize, once they've, bought into this scam, into this replacement of the native indigenous population of the British people, a lot of hotel owners now are coming out and are telling people not to do this, because look at Lanelli, right? Look at how the people, after constant protests, have proven a point to say, we don't want to be invaded by illegal foreigners who literally come to conquer, to destroy, and replace us British people. So we seriously need to reclaim our borders. I mean, we're an island, for God's sake, we are literally not even geographically, like on land, bordered with France. So it's not like Rishi even has an excuse for why these hundreds of illegals are coming into Dover every single day, John. Literally yesterday, 200 people came in illegally, and it's on the government websites, and it's most likely more than that.
It's definitely more. That's how many we know about. There is a lot more.
Because if people
but remember,
right?
Remember though, because of the 1951 convention, that's a reason why that they're not treated as criminals, or that they're not treated as criminals. Remember that. And the ECHR. I mean, people are going on about the European Court of Human Rights. We already had rights as British citizens. We had a good thing of rights as British citizens. We didn't need to be in the European Court of Human Rights. But what you'll hear a lot of the lefties say, if we come out of that, it's going to be bad for certain people. No, it ain't. It's just going to be bad for criminals and invaders and people who don't respect British values and stuff like that. Go on, carry on.
The UN and the ECHR, just to reply to that, the UN, groups like the EU, the ECHR, they don't care about British common law. We can tell by looking at Brexit. Now, what I was going to say earlier was, if people believe that the situation at Dover is bad, okay, they are coming in different types of methods, okay? It's not just by coming on a dinghy. A lot of them come in through Plymouth, some of them even in the north. Some of them come through the Eurotunnel in the back of lorries, etc. And the problem is national. And when we start to understand that this invasion, this economical replacement, all of these problems that are going on in our own lives in this country right now, there needs to be a solution. Now, personally, I believe that solution is to focus on the genuine British people, putting British people first, okay? Taking care of our smaller communities, because then we can focus on then the bigger areas, such as the bigger cities, because London, Birmingham, Bristol, all of these massive cities now, they are the central hotspots for where the illegal criminals go to persuade in their criminal actions. A lot of them is things like human trafficking, gun smuggling, drugs, all of these things. And if you don't believe me, just go into the city and you will find these types of people everywhere. Now, the general election next year, like you said, John, it is going to be a game changer, because we are going to see a lot more people who have been awakened from this propaganda, the lies and drivel that they've been, inserted from platforms and major media sources like BBC, ITV. All this wokeism, it's just falling. The argument isn't there anymore. To say multiculturalism and diversity is our strength, no one believes in that, okay? Because the only culture, John, we should be promoting is British culture, right? Our common law, our Protestant work ethic, our history, right? Who we are as a people. That's the only thing British people should be having. But because of, international globalism, financial problems when we send money to countries that don't even need it, foreign wars like Palestine, Ukraine, all of these things, they are just a distraction, okay? It's a distraction of what's going on outside of our very own doorsteps. So the sooner the people realize we need to fix our own country inside out, the quicker we can go back onto that path of what our ancestors died for all these centuries. So, and I hope we don't, we don't go to war. I really do not want war, okay? I hate seeing videos of people being killed. That's the last thing I wish on anyone. But the Bible is very clear, and it says, if anyone says, I love God, and hates his brother, then he is a liar, okay? So we need to be closely united in these troubled times. I know a lot of people who are struggling right now with homelessness, with, gang-related issues. It's very, very hard for a lot of these people. And I just have to keep reminding them, John, I have to keep saying, focus on yourself, become a better person by educating yourself, read books, learn things that you're not interested in. That's the way I got into things. And the education system right now has taken Christianity out of the school. It's replaced it with this black supremacist racism that literally teaches white children, John, that they're inherently racist because of their skin color, because they are white. Well, guess what? That's a Marxist tactic that needs to be abolished.
Certainly
and
is,
go
yeah.
around by doing that, by cutting off the money supply limit, the support for these inside groups that are promoting this diversity and this wokeism. And that's how we need that's just one example, but we got a lot of problems ahead of us that we need to solve. So only hope for the best.
Thank you, Callum. Thank you. I just want to say to everyone, please get involved with the National Housing Pie. If you don't like my party, or we haven't got, or you want to get more involved, stand as a candidate. It's pretty easy. If not, vote for an independent in your area or another local political party. There's plenty of choice out there. Stop voting for Labour and Conservative. They're absolutely ruining our country, both these major parties. And if we leave them and we don't stand up against them, we're just going to get fully destroyed. We've got to get rid of the woke mob, and we want to cease giving out permanent settlement visas to anybody in the world. We're full up. We've had enough. We've done enough for everyone around the world. We still do things for people around the world, and we're sick of it. You know, if you're an Israeli supporter, fair enough. If you're a Palestine supporter, fair enough. I'm a UK supporter, me. I'm not any of them. I'm a UK supporter. I understand the conflicts. I understand the issues people have with everything. The only thing I'm bothered about with Jewish people is illegally registered schools in the UK, same as Muslims have illegally registered schools in the UK. I've got issues with that, but I ain't got issues with other things. I've got issues with integration, but no matter if you're Israeli or Palestine, we should be focusing on the United Kingdom and not other countries. This is what I don't understand, that we haven't learned these lessons of war, all these wars we've had. I don't understand why no one's learning the lesson of it. You know, it's quite simple. Don't get into war and then don't cause all this carnage. I said last night we had an officers meeting, but there's 4 million people 4 million people being made homeless and on wandering from Yemen because there's a war in Yemen going on right now. No one said anything on the news. So what's happening? Them Yemen people are going to start coming to the UK. Then all of a sudden, oh, we've got people coming from Yemen. I wonder why. Well, Turkey are bombing them. You know what I mean? We need to just keep out of wars and stop giving people our passports. We're sick of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you very much for tuning into the stream. It's Judgment Day. It's Judgment Day next year, and I'm saying it's on General Election Day. That's going to be our Judgment Day. We're doing well with the National Housing Party. We introduced Angie from the Wirral to some of the leaders last night in our monthly stream. And Angie's from the area and she's from the Wirral. That's where her family lived. And we think she'll do well. We've already been out doing a bit of campaigning. Toffee came out to help us. Thank you. God bless you, Toffee. We've got a campaign going on in the Wirral. She's got 3 years. Thank you, Joker. Thank you, mate. We've got 3 years before Angie gets in. At the moment, we've got roughly 6,000 leaflets to get out into her area. And obviously, I've got an election next year. But I mean, I've done a year, and reasonably well thought out. I've given myself within 5 years of getting that council seat. My votes are going up and my support is going up every day, every week. I'm not involved in any of the drama to do with other political groups, and I do my own thing, which I think is going to end up being better for me in the end. I don't go to council meetings to scream and shout and swear at the council staff. I've been to several high-profile meetings with council officials over issues to do with people in Oldham. The last one was people in Hollingwood, which was last week. I'll give you a bit more of an update after tomorrow about that. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Callum. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Paul. And we're praying for Pat because his mum's not well. So everyone if you don't have to pray, just give a thought to Pat's mum tonight, please. And we'll give a thought to Pat's mum.
Yeah, thank you, John. Thank you, guys. Good
Thank
conversation
you.
tonight.
Thanks. I'll email YouTube right now. We will, Bradley. Thank you, mate. Thank you. Thank you, Serena. Thank you, love. Thanks, guys. I'll catch up with you soon. But I've got a bit of a busy week, mate. I've got some filming to do tomorrow. And Saturday, we've got the Now or Never tour. And we're hitting St. Peter's Square in Manchester, organised by PAG UK. We've got Nick Buckley speaking. We had footballer Andy. I can't remember. We had a footballer on. the other week, who was abused by Barry Bennell, Andy, and he spoke as well. I think Andy's going to speak as well. We've got some good speakers, and that'll be St. Peter's Square Saturday. I think it's around 1 p.m. if you're interested. Also on Sunday, we've got Middleton. We've got the Wilton Hotel in Middleton. And just in that area, there was 2 stabbings by migrants who were in the Comfort Hotel at the back. So they're planning a peaceful protest on Sunday around 1 p.m. There is a flyer going around for it. I will put it on Telegram and I'll put it on YouTube. I'll put it on Telegram. I'll put both the Now and Never tour flyer up, and I'll put the hotel in Middleton flyer up as well. Not the roads. It's is it the Milton? One sec, I'll get it. Yeah, it's the Wilton Arms Hotel, Manchester Road, Middleton. Just before you get to the M60 junction, just near Eaton Park. That's where the hotel is. We had a double stabbing 2 weeks ago, and I went down the other day talking to people in the area, and I talked to an old woman, and she said she won't come out in the evening now. She won't come out at night, and she's stopped less coming out during the day because these stabbings didn't happen at night. They happened in broad daylight. And so there's a protest there. The Wilton Arms, the landlady reckons she's losing £18,000 a week. If you know the area well, you know that there's lots of conferences, weddings, parties in that area, and that's why that pub is so busy. All that stopped now because of that Comfort Hotel. So let me just sink that into you. They certainly are, Bobby. They are suffering because if they're going to show support for Israel, then people are going to leave the Labour Party right now. They're going to leave the Labour Party, which is good news for us. Which is very good news for us. But it's scary that this is a time that the Muslims will make their own party, unfortunately, and I don't want that. My glasses are crooked. But anyway, I'm off. It might have been the V Lodge, but I think it's a Comfort Inn at the back where the migrants are, and the V Lodge maybe, because when I was there the other day, I had the Comfort Inn to the back of me, and that's where I seen the migrant people. But it might be the V Lodge, but it's one of them two. But the Wilton Arms Hotel, that's where we're having a demo. But anyway, I'm off, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. NHPUK forever. Thank you very much.